After the release of the first live-action Attack on Titan movie, DTV aired a 3-episode miniseries that is set during the 2-year time skip early in the film titled Attack on Titan Counter Rockets, or just Hangeki no Noroshi if you want to be a weeb about it. To my knowledge, aside from recaps of the first Attack on Titan film presented before each episode, neither Shinji Higuchi or Hajime Isayama had any real involvement or creative input. And unlike the movies, this miniseries hardly ever reached places outside of Asia. In fact, it only has official home releases in Japan, Hong Kong, and Australia as of now. Nobody wanted this, not even Funimation. And of course, being the Attack on Titan fan I went ahead and bought the Hong Kong Blu-ray with English subtitles, as well as the movies for good measure, because I could not stand the terrible fan subs on Kiss Asian. But for some reason, the Hong Kong releases of these have a slightly higher pitch in the audio. Anyway, let's go right into it. Episode 1 was directed by Kimiyoshi Adachi, one of the assistant directors of the Attack on Titan films, Shin Godzilla, and other films directed by Shinji Higuchi as well as Takashi Miike. Judging by that, it is safe to say that this is definitely the best episode of the series, but it's not really saying much since this is certainly the one episode I would recommend watching. This episode is essentially the Sunny and Bean episode from the anime, with Hanji being the main focus. However, there is more emphasis on the creation of the omnidirectional mobility gear, which this episode is mainly about. If you felt unconvinced that Satomi Ishihara could play a good Hanji, then I am glad to inform you that in this episode, Satomi Ishihara displays perhaps the greatest portrayal of the character by far. If you wanted more of her performance after watching the films, this episode is definitely the way to go. Another central character in this episode is Izuru, a chief administrator of the military police who eventually becomes a Moblit type of character, and honestly, Yuta Hiraoka also has a great performance, to the point where I wish he appeared in the films, and is honestly the best new character in the live-action universe. As for the special effects, well, they're not great, and they progressively get worse as the series continues. I mean, come on, this aired after Ultraman X by only a month. Anyway, the use of the Titan puppet could definitely use some more work. I mean, you can tell that they rushed this out. I mean, I don't blame them, Shin Godzilla's production was just right around the corner. Overall, this is a nice break from the dark atmosphere of the films, and ventures into a more lighthearted area with a couple of moments of slapstick here and there. Episode 2 was directed by Katsuro Unoue, the special effects director of the films. This episode features Nanami Sakuraba's Sasha as the central character. To put it short, someone has been stealing the military's food supply, and Sasha ends up stopping them. The episode also goes deeper into Sasha's life before the Titans attacked, and how she used to be a hunter before joining the military. It also explains the relationship between Armin and Sasha in the films. There's also some pretty funny moments, like when she offers one of the Survey Corps captains half of a potato, reminiscent to that of the anime, and this one. Overall, this episode isn't as rich as the previous, but it's definitely an interesting one. Nothing too special really, but I was happy to see more of Nanami Sakuraba's role as Sasha, though I wish they did more with Kanata Hungo's portrayal of Armin, and wait a minute, is that Connie? It's not a terrible episode, just not enough to carry this miniseries. All because of the third and final episode. Episode 3 was directed by Yoshihiro Nishimura, a man who is considered the Tom Savini of Japan. Unfortunately, this does not show, as this episode is the worst the live-action series has to offer. It's about the relationship that forms between the characters Fukushi and Lil, like you see in part 1. The episode seems interesting enough at first, until 5 minutes in when this happens. I really do not want to talk about this episode. This episode makes no sense whatsoever. It is filled with so much unfunny slapstick, terrible green screen, obnoxious characters, aside from Hanji and Izuru of course, and it's such a stark contrast compared to the films that it's almost a parody. In fact, it is so filled with anime tropes that it might as well be a parody comparable to freaking Death Kappa for crying out loud. But aw, aren't they so cute together? I really hope their relationship turns out just fine. Oh wait. Okay, I think it's time to mention this. I really don't want to, but I have to. So, there's a moment where Lil sees Fukushi with the two women from earlier and gets jealous. So she... oh dear lord, the fan subs make it even worse. Calls out to everyone and yells that whoever kisses her can marry her, and... every guy starts chasing her, making these ridiculous kissy faces while they get their asses kicked. Then it evolves into... oh my god, I can't believe this is actually happening. Okay, fast forward a bit, and Lil and Fukushi end up working things out after all, and... why am I doing this? I was almost convinced that this was not real. There is no way that they would have made it this bad. I refuse to believe that this is real. I mean, would you even guess that this is set in the same universe as the live-action films? I have a friend who went to a screening of this miniseries somewhere in a Japanese theater in California with his grandparents back in 2015. And he told me it was probably the most embarrassing thing to ever happen to him. And I feel really bad for him. Overall, this miniseries wasn't necessarily a big waste of time. Episode 1 is easily the best out of the three and could arguably be better than the movies themselves, despite having a couple of low points here and there. Episode 2 had a good thing going, but didn't quite reach the bar the previous episode had set. And episode 3, well, I actually did some research and found out that there is in fact a 10th circle of hell, and it just so happened to be called Attack on Titan Counter Rockets Episode 3. But the one thing that I feel really brings this miniseries down is that it was a huge missed opportunity to fill in the gaps of the more important questions people had about the first film. They missed the chance to really build upon the characters Part 1 had already established. In fact, they could have made an episode about Eren and Mikasa's relationship. Hell, Shikishima was the most interesting new character in the live-action film, so why not take this time to build and develop his character more? Same thing with Kubal. No one really cared about him because he's a predictable and generic corrupt government official. Why not cover all the government conspiracies that would later be mentioned in the second film? It can still have the Hanji episode, but the latter two episodes feel just unnecessary. In the end, you are dead wrong if you thought the live-action Attack on Titan movies were big dumpster fires, because you have not had the painful experience I had to endure when watching this. I would personally recommend Attack on Titan Counter Rockets the same way I would recommend watching the Highlander films. Just watch the first one. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys later. I just need to go cry myself to sleep after talking about that last episode. Alright, better put a spoiler warning when I share this around, or else Reddit's gonna remove my— oh, you motherfucker.